Well, it wouldn't be morning time if you didn't get yelled at by some nerds. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnik. I'm the host of Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on all the automotive enthusiast auction sites, along with my partner, Michael Deeb, right over there. He's an auction specialist. Look, it says so right below his name, so it must be true. How are you, Michael Deeb? Good morning.
Sup, nerds? What's
yes,
going on,
sir. Hey, are you excited today? Because, I mean, come on. It's a big day. It's Wednesday.
It's a very big day. It's hump day.
You know,
we have a third nerd.
We do have a third nerd. That's what I was getting at. I really wanted you to stop talking so I could just introduce someone better than you. Hello, Lane Skelton from Rad ForSale, DWA, all the coolest things on the internet when it comes to cars. Lane Skelton, how are you today? Thanks for joining us, buddy.
I'm good, nerds. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
welcome, Lane.
Man. We need little stickers for people to put on their forehead when they get to be a third nerd.
That's right.
Yeah. Big question for you, Lane. When we invited you to be on the show, were you excited and happy, or were you kind of insulted? Like, crap, I get it.
I was kind of bummed, dude.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Yeah,
I have to wake up at 9, be online with John, talk to John on the phone.
Lane's gonna fire his agent. He's looking for a new agent.
Representation. No, I was stoked. I was waiting for the invite. You know, I was waiting.
Yeah, people have been just by the phone. Yeah.
I was waiting for the mailbox. Dude.
Oh, right.
Lane, JP's been teasing ahead to having you on the show so long. I think our audience finally got the gist. He never called you. He was like, we got to get Lane on this show. I'm like, that's a great idea. Why don't you call him?
Yeah, I got a text a couple days ago, you know.
That guy won't admit it that he knows me. Lane, we are extra excited for you because of Rad ForSale and everything that's going on there. You guys have launched a brand new automotive enthusiast auction site. Usually when we introduce the show, we talk about how we talk about the most interesting cars of the day on Cars and Bids, Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, but it's gotten to the point where I can't list them all. There's too many. And you guys are kind of the latest to the party, but you're doing things a little differently. One, how is the launch going, and what's going on? What's your plan to differentiate yourselves from the other auction enthusiast sites?
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is the two other auction sites started the same day, which is crazy, but we won't talk about those.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't even know what they are. So who cares?
Yeah, right.
You know, it's going well. We've obviously had a few hiccups and stuff. It's expected. That's why we did a soft launch with, you know, a few cars, and we kind of picked cars that we felt kind of fit who we are. So we have like some more high-end stuff, and we have some lower end, and we have some really cool, like we had a really cool VW Caddy with a V8 LS swap, and you know, just kind of weird stuff, and a Dodge Colt, or there's a Dodge Colt. Dodge Colt. This is really cool. A turbo. Just like, you know, so that's our brand, but the real differentiator, I mean, it is our brand, Radwood, Rad ForSale, and it's all about the Radwood era, which has become a thing. And that is 1980 through 1999. So those are the cars that go up on our site. We do accept some outliers, like say you have the Fast Times from Ridgemont High, the original bus from that movie. We would accept that, you know, Spicoli's bus.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, you actually have that? Are you kidding, or is that real?
No, I wish. It was at our first Radwood show in LA, in attendance, but if we did have something that, we would definitely accept it, even though it was like a 1970 something bus. But
so an out of year, but Radwood range icon would make
for sure.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. Or like say a you know, the 32, I think it's a 32 Ford, or it might be something different, but on the cover of like the ZZ Top album with the graphics on the side, like that's pretty Radwood era, you know. And I think that's a Boyd Coddington car. But yeah, we'll take all that stuff. You know, we are the Radwood era. I think we've seen multiple magazines talk about the Radwood era. So, we feel like this is a good place for those people that want a semi-reliable, modern-ish, but now a classic car that you could drive every day and have a lot of fun. And they still, if you get a Porsche or something like that, or a Supra or something like that, they still can rip, and you can have a lot of fun driving them on rallies and stuff like that. Another differentiator is that we are selling gear and lifestyle stuff. So, upcoming, we have like a cool Honda moped coming up. We want to sell like Formula One jackets, BMX bikes, stuff like that from the era as well. So
and parts and boom boxes all fitting into that category.
Yeah, things rad.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for when that opens up, because I've got a sweet like Bell radar detector from like 1982 that I don't know if I want to get rid of, but I feel like that's rad for sale material and would be a fun thing to put out there. Well, congratulations on getting the site launched. You guys are under a lot of scrutiny. A lot of people are paying attention. The other sites that have kind of gone live in the past, nobody was around. Nobody remembers when BAT started doing auctions. They kind of slowly fed them into their old format. Cars and Bids. I wasn't watching their auctions on the very first day. So nobody can say, their launch went super smoothly. Who the heck knows? That was in old times. Now you guys are like launching this thing, and you've had a couple of bugs. You feel like you're getting them worked out?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, every day we're fixing stuff, adding content, modifying. It's expected that this is going to happen, right? And but yeah, everything's going pretty as well as can be expected, and we're pretty happy with how the site looks right now, and still kind of keep going.
Nice.
Good luck with everything, man. It's a full-time job the first couple of months. But the rewards can be tremendous, and we hope that your niche differentiates you and gets you a big piece of the pie, because we love it. Love the brand.
Thank you.
A couple of days ago when we had Bradley on, he did tease the idea of another Rad Wood event happening. Any new news?
Bay Area.
What's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't have a specific date or anything, but we're looking at June or July for Bay Area.
Summertime.
And that's usually when we have that show too. I think we've had 3 in the Bay Area, and those are all in June.
I know you guys have done stuff up at Sears Point, like Sonoma Raceway, Infinia, and whatever they call it these days, Sim, blah, blah, blah. But the very first one, which I missed inexplicably, was it at the track, or was it somewhere else in San Francisco when you had Radwood number one?
It?
Yeah, it was in Brisbane. So we've done 3 in the Bay Area that weren't at Sonoma. So we've done 2 at Sonoma. Those we like to call the Sonoma ones are kind of we don't really have a name for it, but I would say they're our at shows. Yeah. So they're Radwood at Hoopty-Con or Lemons, 24 Hours of Lemons.
Right.
It's not like a full-fledged show, but it's kind of, it gets you partway there. But our full Radwood shows, we've had 3 in, like right there on the North Peninsula, South San Francisco area. Yeah,
JP, when we were at Rafi's shop in Brisbane, we were in when we were at Rafi's shop, the pit stop, we were in Brisbane, so we were like,
I was at Radwood one. I remember being there and just going, all right, this is a thing. This is going to happen. The first show was not huge, but it was definitely had that era of, okay, these guys are onto something. They made way too many T-shirts, but that worked out in the end. Look at that! I got so no. That was such a fun show, and I have footage from that original show. I think I made one little video of it. I should make something longer one of these days.
Cool, very cool.
Yeah, that was cool. It was basically like a Cars and Coffee. We just promoted it on our podcast and stuff, and got a bunch of friends to come out. So it was awesome.
Very, very, very cool.
I think the first Radwood in LA is still to this day the most fun car show of all time. There have been better car shows as far as Luftkult 6. Of course, that was like the biggest, most amazing car show. But honestly, Radwood was more fun. Rad 2, I guess it would have been in LA, was just God, that was such a good show. It was just, it was all the cool cars without all the pretense that usually happens at Phoenix Club shows. So it was,
yeah. That was really fun. That was such a tight little area too, and there was people dancing on the dance floor, and we had a BMX freestyle.
Yeah, Porsche punks. Yeah,
and it was so fun. Yeah,
that was such a good day. All right, well, congrats. All right, well, cool. Coming on, everybody. We've got Lane Skelton from DWA today, so we really appreciate him joining as a third nerd. Let's get to the cars. This is the daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on Cars and Bids, Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, Rad ForSale, and all the other automotive enthusiast auction sites. What we do when we nerd out on these cars, we don't just say, "Hey, here's our opinion of the car. Here's a bunch of technical stuff," and then move on. No, we actually give you a prediction as to what we think they will hammer for when their sale ends. When that hammer comes down, my wife Rochelle told me the name of the little thing that they hit with the hammer.
What is it?
I can't remember what it was. Hey, she'll come and tell me again. Tell
Patootie to get her a mic. We need her on the show.
Honestly, she should be running the show. She's much better at this than I am. So let's go over yesterday's cars and talk about our predictions. See how we did and see how close we were. And then Lane, I'm kind of curious to get your opinion on some of these cars that we had yesterday. Our big car of the day yesterday was actually that NSX. And it was
the M6.
Well, no, we wound up changing it to the. I know we started out, but
all right, well, we'll start with the NSX.
anyways.
Well, yesterday we had a third nerd on. It was Reese Hayden from Hypertrash Magazine. And man, he was such a nice guy. And Hypertrash is such a cool magazine. JP, after the show, I ordered a couple of back issues and I got you a couple of stickers.
Nice.
Lane, what magazine do you have?
What magazine do I have?
Yeah.
What
you
is
don't have
that
a magazine? You don't have a magazine?
I don't. Do I own a magazine? No.
Yeah. Are you dissing Lane or like what? You don't have a magazine? Everybody else has a magazine.
Reese has a magazine. I thought.
No, I read magazines. I like.
Magazines. You just have an auction site. I had no magazine.
Yeah, I'm a loser, dude. I have like 5 companies.
But no publications.
Thank you for playing along, Lane. Appreciate it. I couldn't wait. All right. So our NSX yesterday, the 2002 NSX was very cool. Did have some miles. Did have some mods. It was triple black and kind of that second gen of the car. Maybe you could even say the third gen being an 02. Very neat car by all accounts, but it did also have an accident on the Carfax. And JP, you'll be very, very pleased to know that while I thought that might hold it back, along with the miles and the mods, I said 62,000. You bet way over me at 70. Reese came in right underneath you at 69. That car sold for 72,500. Now, I still think that could have been, maybe closer to an $80,000 or $85,000 car. But 72,500 with a bad Carfax. I mean, what more could the consignor have expected? I'd say that's really well sold. And JP, you got the win.
Lane, what do you know? It had
78, 79,000 miles.
It has some miles.
Yeah. Just under 80.
I don't know. I saw the mods and I was out. So, yeah. But yeah, that's a good one with low miles. They're a second gen like that. They're $130,000 cars. So
yeah, Lane, they're 6-figure cars.
Lane, Deeb has obviously worked for a car dealership before because he loves to say that it has a bad Carfax.
It's just an accident, right?
It's just an accident. Is the term bad Carfax in the car industry? Is it a bad Carfax if it's just had an accident? I always thought a bad Carfax was when it had salvage a branded title or salvage, right? So I mean, I don't know. I think that the consumers have one definition of bad Carfax and dealers have a different one.
Bad Carfax is how we buy cars. So if somebody brings us a car and there's a mark on the Carfax, we say it has a bad Carfax because we're about to beat them up and rip off their face to buy their car for less money than they are expecting. And that's how dealers make money. Even if they're just going to wholesale it, all the vernacular I bring to the table absolutely comes from, the sales manager's office, and bad Carfax is absolutely the vernacular of the house. In this case, it's because whatever the mark was, it didn't hold it back. I think that's a great result. Modified car that has had a previous accident, if that. appeases your sensibilities.
Deeb, I actually do agree with you that this car, bad Carfax or Carfax with a ding on it or whatever term we want to use. I agree with you that the Carfax probably did affect the Carfax and the mods affected the overall value of this car, because otherwise this thing's spectacular. And I think whoever got it got a bargain, because the mods are very easy to deal with. I mean, if you want to put it back.
So show me a 20-year-old car that hasn't had an accident. I don't care about Carfax.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's kind of like, do we really trust Carfax that much?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone.
No,
it's like show me a 20-year-old car with 70,000 miles on the clock that hasn't had the front end respray, especially a sports car or an accident, right? And just because it's, I don't know, Carfax, it's like, how much are we putting into that? It's kind of ridiculous. I understand it's an industry standard, but it's.
Yeah, if you go to the body shop and pay for the work yourself, or the person who hit you gives you a check and you go to the body shop with that, that's not going on the Carfax. So Carfax is not perfect.
Or even a brand spanking new car that was delivered to the port, and from the transport from the port to the dealership, they get body work sometimes, and they repair them before they even land on the showroom floor. And those cars, that damage doesn't go on a Carfax.
At every major port of entry, Long Beach, New Jersey, Houston, whatever you're talking about, these cars come off the boat and they go to a holding pen for each manufacturer, and each manufacturer has reconditioning guys that are down there spraying wheels, fixing interiors, and namely the paint guys are spraying bumpers and correcting dings all the time. That oftentimes the dealership doesn't even know these cars have had reconditioning on them, because they don't mark them anywhere. They just handle it so the cars look like they're supposed to, and then they get put on the truck and sent out. So it's it's a cottage industry for sure. And there's all kinds of stuff we don't know about. So Carfax is not the final word. Doing your due diligence is.
It is good to know if it's been salvaged, though. If it was a theft recovery or a flood, something like that. That's great info. To me, rental. That's prior rental. Yeah. Does it mention if it's been on Turo?
Does it mention if JP owned it?
Big mark against it. All right, what's the next car that we talked about?
All right, so let's go over to cars and bids. We'll say hi to Doug DeMiro for a second. Lane, we found a 2009 red Cayenne GTS, an E1 GTS with a manual transmission. Did have about 130,000 miles on it, but a really nice car. I said 32,000. Now, JP's had 3 Cayennes, and all of them were sticks, 2 bases and a GTS. So he said 27, and Reese said 29.9, which really kind of split the difference between us. Lo and behold, this car sold for $26,957, meaning JP was $43 away from a Yahtzee. How do you like me now? John nearly guessed this one perfect, the guy who's owned 3 of them before. So very good guess, JP. That car was nice, but it wasn't amazing. And what were you thinking? The miles maybe held that one back a little bit?
Platform. I mean, that's platform. This is where the rubber hits the road when it comes to platform. There are cars that are going to do really well on Radwood or Rad ForSale, and cars that probably won't. BAT would have brought somewhere in the low 30s for this car, but cars and bids just does not bring the money.
Didn't even make
this odd.
$27,000 for a stick V8 Cayenne. Lane, have you driven one of these with the manual?
I have.
Yeah. Cool, huh?
Did you like it? Yeah, it was great. I mean, it's super. They're heavy and everything, but yeah, it's good.
Polnik got his hands on one that was black, which is his favorite color for an automobile, and he sold it. And I've been teasing him ever since because that was his car. I couldn't believe he let it go.
DWA, their Lane's podcast, they do it's Driving While Awesome, and I call it a bit. I know Lane, you guys don't call it a bit, but you guys do a bit all the time. It's like one of your most common bits. It's the fill in the blank car solution. So is it all right? You have a garage with 2 spots, or you have 3 spots, or you have 1 spot, and it's like, what is the 2-car solution if your cars have to be German, and you can only have 2 cars? And I remember early on listening to the first time I listened to your podcast, you did that, and I was just like screaming into my phone, going, "A Cayenne manual! What's wrong with you guys? Don't you know that exists? Come on, man!"
Yeah. They're cool. I remember, and those are pretty rare, right? A GTS with a manual. And, I remember when those came out. It was a pretty cool thing. And in
the secondary market, they bring a big premium. In other words, like what JP's saying, this car with 30,000 miles will probably bring $33,000 on PAT. That same car is 19 grand if it's an automatic.
Not even. Yeah. So, I mean, you're looking at 15, maybe.
I feel like a lot of them were that red.
Yeah, they did some unusual colors too. They did color match wheels and things because they were GTSs. So most of those clients ordered those cars. So some of them have some unusual colorways because a lot of them were bespoke, not dealership inventory things, but customers ordering the car and then waiting for them to arrive from Stuttgart, or where do they come from? JP, Latvia or something, right?
Mexico. I don't know.
Mexico, yeah. All right, let's go back over to Bring a Trailer. And Lane, we found the grandfather of the GTI, at least I thought I did, in 1973 BMW 2000 TII Touring, the little 4-seat, 2-door glass hatchback that was never really officially brought to the United States. Somebody imported this car. Really nice car. I certainly oversold it on this one. I thought this car would break 40, and so I guessed 45,000 because it was in really nice condition. JP was more conservative at 35, and Reese didn't believe in it at all and actually bet again 29,900. The car sold for 32,900, and JP got his third win of the day if you're scoring this at home. You've seen one of these?
I got to catch up, man. I got to catch up. You've been killing me the last week.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, all these. I mean, I see a lot of these actually. If you go to like O2, the swap and meet up in the Bay Area, you'll see like a line of like 10 of them, basically. You know, so,
really with the hatchback versions, the TIIs.
Yeah, the touring, or whatever they call them. And then we've had them at our Morning Motors Cars and Coffees before and stuff. So,
yeah. Anyway, neat little car. You don't see him too often unless you're Lane, who's so involved. He's like, oh, yeah, I got 10.
Lane's seen everything. He's like, whatever.
Yeah. He's like, when is the show going to get interesting? Okay. We looked at a 2001 Mercedes Benz SL in this unusual sort of candy apple red. This is a low mile 01 JP with the AMG styling package, which by that time, JP, I think your suspicion is right. That might have been on all of them. Like they were all AMGs.
Yeah, I think because that was the last year or second to last year, right?
Second to last year. But you're right. And then this car only had 18,000 miles on it. And so, we teased about the color not being a great color, but I could tell you for sure, 80% of the cars that Mercedes-Benz sells are either black, silver, or white. So when you get an unusual color on a Benz, that represents a very low production number. And in this day and age, people pay a premium for rare. And so by production, this car is rare. So I said 33. JP, you went 31. Reese said 34. And the car brought a whopping $45,000 and sold. So although Reese won this one, I get to score it as the win for my one and only of yesterday. JP, how shocked were you with this result? And Reese, does that make sense to you?
Rochelle and I watched the auction, and it was I thought I was going to get the win because I bid 31, I think, or 30 or something like that, and it was sitting 31. At 30. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. In the last minute, somebody bumped it up, and this auction went for another half hour. It took a long time to get to that 45, and there were 3 different guys battling it out. And I was just like, this is absurd. You and I were so dang wrong. Neither one of us deserve a W for this. Lane, what do you think of these cars?
I think they're great. I prefer the early ones with the 2-tone cladding, but I usually prefer like first generation of a car. I think they make changes just for the sake of making changes a lot of times. But these are still good looking, and I think they're a really cool touring car. I would rather have one with some miles that's still super nice and had all this stuff gone through for 18 grand, 19 grand, but
Right. What about the color? Do you prefer a bright color one like this one, or would you prefer something more subdued like a black or something?
I'm not too down with burgundies, but I'd probably take I prefer another color, I like the early ones in the dark blue with the gray bottoms.
Yeah, those are cool.
And very period correct. I like that. I agree with you. A lot of the Mercedes, even the 500Es, had that metallic paint, and then that sort of flat gray boxer trim on almost all the cars, and that is is so Benz of that era, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So anyways, an interesting result. Congratulations to the seller. You got every dime out of that automobile. And then what had originally been our star car, but now comes in last, was the 1988 BMW M6. JP, this car had just under 100,000 miles. The wheels were aftermarket. I can't remember if he said he had the original wheels or not. I think that he did. And just a neat car. You know, this generation of the M6 are moving in the right direction, following the earlier M5 in the equitable black ink direction. This car had a little bit of wear and tear that you would expect on a 100,000 mile car, but really did have a nice shine and seemed to be all there. I said 29, thinking it wouldn't quite break 30 grand. You took 30,000 as your bid, and Reese went over at 32. So the car sold for $31,000. And JP, in theory, that's your win, and it's also a draw with Reese because it split your guys' bids. But a nice car, and like I said, JP, I when I was, you know, like high school, college, I thought this was like the car, like just the coolest, sort of rarest, unusual hand-built motor and a whole nonsense, because M was sort of a new thing on our shores, where it had been unobtainium and whispered as gray market stuff when you'd get an M635 brought in. The real M6, I thought, was everything. Reese, did you lust after this car when we were kids like I did?
Reese was on yesterday's show.
Oh, sorry.
We got Lane.
Lane.
That's okay. At least you used Reese's correct name. I was calling him Rise. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Lane.
I like them a lot. We have 635 CSI Euro, and I hate those US bumpers on the M6. Euro bumper looks so good on them, but yeah, they're really cool. I put them in the same category as like 928. You know. And I always preferred the 928, but they're super cool.
Wow. There you go.
You know,
Lane, you can get rid of the diving boards, can't you? Can you find Euro?
Yeah, you can put Euros on
something
it.
like that.
Yeah,
sure.
That really
not cheap
right,
though, right?
No, I think it might, like the E28 5 Series. I think you might have to like replace the rear valance, and that requires some cutting out the valance and welding and stuff. I'm not sure on these, but I know on E28s, it's that way. But these are super cool. They're so good. They're really good looking.
Yeah. Now, listen, I'm guessing you've owned a 928 or two in your life.
I have.
Yeah. Now, is it fair to say that this M6 would be a more reliable car to have for a year or two than a 928? Or is a good 928 a car you wouldn't mind taking on a long road trip because you wouldn't worry about something falling apart while you're down there?
Yeah, I don't know. 928s are actually really the engines are really reliable. I had a 928 for 7 years and never left me stranded. So
that's awesome.
It was a 5-speed, and I mean the engines are really strong. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe you could say that the electrical is probably a little less finicky.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I would say the later than an 850, 840 CSI is like way less reliable than any of these.
That interesting.
Yeah.
There was a great era then, and then all of a sudden, you know, the bean counters had more influence in the boardrooms of all our favorite manufacturers. Mercedes went down the toilet, and cars weren't as good as they were when we were younger, which is crazy.
And go
ahead.
Most disappointing car I've ever driven was a 8 Series.
Wow. Wow.
In my life.
Yeah, that's interesting. JP, there you go. 4 wins for you to my 1, and our third nerd did pretty good, beating me once and drawing with you once. So that was yesterday.
All right. Well, so that was yesterday's cars. So it's time to get to today's most interesting cars on Cars and Bids Bring a Trailer. Rad for Sale in particular, because I think we're going to start out our car of the day. Our star car is this Reebok thing that we are all super excited about. Take it away, Deeb. Look at this car, guys.
Okay. So this is all. Len, I hope you appreciate it. This is just, I mean, totally Rad for Sale. Like, this should be your poster child for
for sure.
I mean, listen, nobody thinks of Reeboks except, like, you know, over a pair of like aerobic socks with Velcro strap high tops that everybody was wearing in the 90s. Out of the Canadian Porsche Cup Series is this 1988 Porsche 944 Turbo Cup. Now, it has very low miles, 8,369 miles, but don't let that fool you. This is a former race winner in the Canadian Series. And despite the low miles, it's probably been driven really hard. But by all accounts, somebody or one of the previous owners has gone through this car. Mechanically, all the servicing is up to date as it comes to market by LBI in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And somebody absolutely restored this incredible 90s original livery on the car with the Rothmans, the Pirelli, the Shell, the Reebok, and the whatever that local company on the thing, Auto House, something or other. It's an amazing vehicle. JP, prior to the 944 Cup Series, 944s made about 217 horsepower. But this car had the wick turned up. They were about 600 pounds lighter than a standard road-going 944. And without any of the smog equipment, without any of the air conditioning, and probably a greater tune, these things were making about 300 brake horsepower. If you take about a 3,000-pound car and take 600 pounds off it, you're looking at like 2,400 pounds, JP, and 300 horsepower. That is a recipe for speed and fun. And these cars just sort of defined an era. I mean, these are just awesome. In some cases, these cars can be brought to the United States and in some ways put on plates and driven on the road. And then one last take I want to give you. Reese said something yesterday, and JP, you and I kind of cut him off to move on from this car. But he said this would be a very interesting, very inexpensive ticket to the sport reunion. Looking at a full racing Porsche, a former race winner that was authorized factory-built race car, and yet this car would get you into Rennsport. It's probably going to come in comfortably under $100,000. Think of all the cool cars that are way out of our price range, JP, that are at something like Rennsport Reunion, and yet this would get you an entrance in that you could participate in the event. And I thought that was a great take. Lane, had you considered that this might be like the cheapest way to get yourself into Rennsport?
Dude, I had not thought about that, but that's so true.
Isn't that a great take?
Yeah, it's a great take. It's if you haven't watched, go to this auction site and check out the video we have linked in there. It is
I've seen it.
Rad, dude. Like there is so much cool. Like that racing series looks so fun, and this is the coolest livery of that whole series of
absolutely
of all the cars that were in there. So
yeah, I love that you guys documented that in the entire season, this car is on camera 60% of the footage from the season from the Canadian Cup Series. JP, the wheels look like phone dials, right? Wrong. Those are magnesium wheels. I mean, everything on this car is trick. And then a year later, or later that year, they brought some of these Cup parts and borrowed also from the 920, our favorite 940 for Turbo S, and in particular, the Silver Rose on my list. That's my Eleanor, if there was one. But JP, this is such a cool car. What do you think? Would you rock that on the street with that livery or what?
Man, if they'd let me, I certainly would. And even if they wouldn't let me, I'd probably try. I'm looking for the video, Lane, and I am not seeing it anywhere.
Oh, go
to our photos.
Actually, go to our article. Go to the blog, and there's a really cool video there. It's not this specific car, but yeah, in the photos, there's a video of this car, like a little highlight reel. That's really cool.
Where and then, so that's one thing I gotta admit, Lane. This interface is pretty complex. You've got all photos, exterior, other interior, mechanical. I know, right? When you're trying to get to it and show it on a show, it is not easy.
JP, if you go to the listing where it says why it's rad and you get all of the description, there's a blue line that says check out this awesome montage of Rick By. That is a hyperlink to the video, and it's in the written content why it's rad underneath the photos on the front page.
All right, guys, we're gonna have to move on because I just
okay. Sorry. All right. Well, JP, this car is it's a dealer car by LBI Limited out of the East Coast, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The car has been sitting at $52,911 for a couple of days because we've been watching it. It's on 10 bids. A few years ago, this would have been a six-figure car at the height of the market in 15 or 16. These were just about bringing $100,000, and this one certainly would have with its iconic livery and a former race winner. But in today's market, this is probably an $80,000 car, which is still an incredible value. But but our car is languishing just a little bit at 52,911 without a lot of action in the last few hours. It's a new platform, and we got to keep it real that, as Radwood is building their audience, they will absolutely find buyers at full retail for these cars. That's the hope. That's the intention, or they wouldn't have got all dressed up for it. But this car might not quite make it to there. So the question is, what is LBI willing to let this car go for? And I think that if the, the reserve is low or comes off, that, my computer is totally letting me down here. Here we go. 944 Turbo Cup. I thought this car would bring at least $75,000. So I'm hoping that you guys get a late flurry and that somebody's really trying to get this thing across the line. So I said 75, and I would hope that it would sell there because that should be close enough. Lane, I know you know some insider information on this, but what do you think?
I don't know. I think I'll leave myself out of this one, maybe.
Yeah, you might have to. Yeah, and that's fine.
I will say that LBI has had a flurry of people contacting them about it, and going to look at the car. So I think there is some real interest in it.
That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. JP,
and it is plated and registered. And they put a video the other day up of them driving on the highway.
Yeah, it's
nice.
so cool. That's so cool.
Is this, so is this the kind of car, and will we see on Rad ForSale that a lot of the cars will sell after the auction closes, or are we going to see cars usually just close? So that was something that P-Car Market started out. That was kind of their move. They'd put the cars up. They'd have kind of high reserve prices. Hardly anything ever sold there, at least during the auction. But then right after the auction, the cars would go in the deal tank, and then their sales guys would go reach out to the bidders, and they would make a sale. So that seems like a pretty good strategy. That has changed over at P-Car Market. Now it's certainly they're just bringing money for cars. So I guess it seems like a good strategy to start out and then move into a different direction. I would love to see a late flurry on this. We don't have enough information to know if Rad ForSale gets late flurries yet.
So I will tell you, we've had 4 cars closed so far.
Yeah.
One is sold on the site. One is sold after the fact. And I believe 2, and then 2 did not sell, I believe.
Well, that's good. That's good. Look, you're getting there. We kind of lamented that P-Car Market might have shot themselves in the foot with the deal tank, because then what you're doing is you're training your audience that you don't have to rush to get this car at the close of auction. You can kick tires on it when it hits the deal tank, and I think that might have held them back for a while. But now their audience has grown, and now it seems like they're selling cars, and the deal tank is a luxury if the car doesn't sell. But the good cars are crossing the block sold, and that's a really good thing. So I love that you guys will entertain the idea of an offer after the auction, but you're not creating a space for it on your website. In other words, you're not training your audience to be patient, you're training your audience to be aggressive, and I think that will help you in the short term to get this thing, get you guys off the stops. You know what I mean? So, JP, what's your number on this car?
Well,
this
what was your bid?
20...
You were at what?
I said 75. I went high. I said 75, but I just, again, I would love to own this car for $75,000. So I'm kind of betting with my heart on this one. This is number 22 of only 39 made for I think the entire North American market, but that might just be Canada. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a long way to go in the last couple hours of the auction on a new platform. I think it's not going to make that, but I think what will happen is this car will probably get to a certain number, and then you guys will sell it, because Adam Carolla is super strong on race cars. I know race cars just bring big money. Race cars that are actually have some significance, and this one clearly does. Is it worth $80,000, $90,000, $100,000? Maybe, probably. I think it's going to get. I'm going to say 65.
Okay.
And say you guys sell it after the fact. That's my guess. But that's
fair enough.
It's a guess, man. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to value race cars, but knowing that Porsche built this, knowing that it raced in a Porsche series, and that it won a race, I think is absolutely going to help it. The livery totally helps it. It's the ideal dance partner for Rad ForSale as they begin, and I hope that this gets them marketing and comment that helps them build the platform and get the word out there. So, Lane, good luck with the auction.
Thank you.
Fantastic photos too, by the way.
Great studio shots. All right, so JP, let's go over and say hi to Doug DeMiro. He wants everybody in the world to know he's auctioning Cars and Bids' first G550 squared. I know you know these cars really well, and I just thought it was really cool because we covered that sort of acid green one the other day. This one is very similar. I think that car had just over 3,000 miles. This one has just over 5,000. So a 2017 Mercedes Benz G550 4x4 squared with 5,500 miles, offered out of Fort Worth, Texas. No stories on this. Clean Carfax, clean title, clean paint, clean everything. All the services are up to date. By all accounts, this is a perfect used car for the American jackass that wants to drive it. These were $226,000 when they were brand new. And by all accounts, hold their value really well. So we kind of laughed at that acid green one, JP, because we learned that was a $20,000 paint job. This one is not treated to something that is so polarizing, and this might give us a fairer indication of what the market is. The question became a big car bids on platform can get all the money for such an unusual or at least so niche, expensive car, appealing to a certain demographic of young guy who's seriously cashed up. And by all accounts, Doug DeMuro's going to succeed on this one. JP, for 2 hours to go, our car is sitting on already 27 bids at $177,777, which seems like it's poised to hit that $200,000 mark, which brings us right into fair market value for one of these things. Lane, am I on point with that, or am I off? Am I missing something? Does that sound right to you? Do you know these things?
No clue, dude.
Me neither.
I've been in one on the Las Vegas Strip at over 100 miles an hour with someone. But
Rami
that sounds like Rami. Yeah, I know that guy.
But I don't know the market of these. I know they're super limited, so I'd imagine they'd be close to what they sold for new. $200,000 ish.
Yeah. Okay. So JP, what do you think? I mean, you think Doug DeMuro's going to get $200,000 for this, or are we?
Well,
or is that
we did pick this for Lane because I remember when we went. Rami and I went on the DWA podcast to talk about the Rami show, and
cool.
everyone on the podcast, Art and Lane, you guys were all poo-pooing G-Wagons. You're like, the G-Wagons they're too small, they're blah 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 blah. They just didn't like them. And then Rami picked them up from the airport and scared the wits end out of them. But by the end of the weekend, they're like, yeah, I think we need to get G-Wagons. So I'm surprised you haven't bought one yet, Lane. This is I wanted you to know this is here for you, buddy.
Yeah. Lane, are you married?
I am.
Yeah.
And he has kids. This is the perfect family rig. What are you talking about?
He's never getting a G-Wagon. There's no way.
Come on, man. I think this has Lane written all over it. It might be bigger than your house, though. I mean, look at the size of this thing.
I don't know if it'll fit down my street.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely my house. Esther would love to move into a G-Wagon.
Yeah, dude. So I don't know. Yeah, the prices on these definitely are better than just about any other Mercedes. They are one of the few Mercedes that hold their value. On this platform at 175. What was your number, Deeb? Did you give a number?
I didn't give a number.
Okay. Well, there you go.
226 brand new, and it's sitting at about 170. Actually, it just got another bid. It's at 178,910. Right. So it's getting there, JP. Again, 2 hours to go. What I was thinking is that this thing would get up to $183,000, and that the platform might hold it back. I may change that, and I'll go to 188, JP, but I still don't think it's going to get to 190 or 200.
Yeah, I'll say 185 because it is. Oh, sorry, Lane, I skipped over you. I'll say 185 just because, I mean, these are worth 195. I mean, that's basically what they're worth. And Cars and Biz doesn't bring all the money typically. But then again, if someone's looking for one of these, there aren't that many of them out there. This is the color that you want. Rami's new one, after his white one burned to the ground, burned to the dang ground, he replaced it with a silver one. And silver looks really good on these. Our friend Jeff had a black one just like this, and he struggled for. I mean, it took him a year to sell his, and he got 195 for his. So,
really interesting.
Lane, what do you think?
You want to venture a guess on this crazy thing? I mean,
dude, I'm going to go high. I'm just going to say 199. I feel like G-Wagons almost for this demographic need to be black. It's like
that's a strong bid.
Color. We're going strong, dude, and I have no clue. You gave me too much info, dude. Like, you got me first, make me look an idiot.
All right, listen, we got another super exotic car. We'll still be able to bring a trailer. We don't really cover supercars very often. This is pure unobtainium. Offered out of Greenwich, Connecticut, is this 2013 Aston Martin V12 Zagato. Yeah. These cars were never brought to the United States. This is only one of 61 ever produced between 2012 and 2013. This
Lane
car
has
was
seen
delivered
25 of them because he sees everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, of course, yes. Yeah, he's really plugged in, JP. He's really plugged in.
I've seen one at RM in Florida when I was there.
There you go. See? He has seen one. JP, this car was delivered new in England. It only has 3,200 miles on it. It employs the services of a 6-liter double overhead can V12. You're looking at, let me read it to you. I have some notes here. Did my homework.
While you're looking for notes, I think it's a sweet-looking GTR.
It is a sweet-looking GTR. It's very round. 510 horsepower, 420 pound-foot of torque. This thing took 2,000 hours to assemble, and the original MSRP was about $450,000. Now, I just caution you guys, in the secondary market, these things bring absurd money, nearly twice the money. Again, if this was at RM Sotheby's, you'd be looking at $800,000, $900,000 for one of these things. This car has been driven. It does have 3,200 miles, which is probably more than most of the other ones that are out there. And of course, there's probably less than 2 or 3 of these things on our shores because they were never sold here. So to bring such a young car in, it came in on the show and display, which is kind of like having a classic plate. It means your insurance and your registered miles for renewal have to remain under 5,000 miles annually, which is not a big deal for one of cars. Some millionaire will wipe it with a diaper, bring it to some coffee once or twice a year. But it is a gorgeous car. I mean, listen, if you had to buy a Nissan GTR, isn't this the one you want? As JP would say. Lane, what do you think of this thing? Are you a big fan of Zagato with the double bubble? Do you like the lines on this? Does the V12 with a stick turn you on, or
yeah, they're fun. I had one for a few days. I'm a normal Aston Martin V12 with the manual, and it's a cool car. It's for sure. I mean, it's a big touring car as well, 928. Right. But they're fun and they sound good, and they get the right looks, I think. Zagato, I don't know, the fish mouth is a little much. I don't know, the creases on the top of the fenders don't really do it for me. The wheels suck. Besides that, it's all right. But
besides that, it's all right.
They took a great looking car and kind of just did their thing, I guess.
Yeah. JP, other than everything, it's a really nice car.
They fixed stuff that wasn't broken. But I know that these are, they're rare, obviously, and we didn't.
They are.
And they're a coach-built car, so some billionaire with everything else is going to want it. Yeah, I don't know. I would say it's probably like a $700,000 car.
Yeah. Okay. 700 is a good bid. JP, by all accounts, this car should bring $750,000. It just doesn't look like it's going to. I mean, it has 20 bids, but it's just been sitting at 510,000 for a couple days now. Is this going to have a late flurry, and is it going to be a couple $100,000 flurry? I'm going to go for market value and say that Bring Miller can win the audience. I'll go 750. But we're walking the plank here, JP. Who knows?
Where's it at now? I'm sorry. Where'd you say it was?
It's at 510,000 with a couple with less than an hour to go, but it's on 20 bids. There are people watching this car.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say 700. What the heck? I mean,
Lane said 700, so you got to come up with a new
720.
Okay, 720. There we go. All right,
I don't know. I'm with Lane though. I just don't think this car is special, really.
And then they added a wing to the back. Why does it have a big wing? It's not like it's not a race car. Like
I mean, it really. I mean, with the Z from the Zagato and the way this
looks like a Nissan Z. Yeah,
that's why I said it looks like a GTR, right?
And the way that vent is on the fender. Yeah, I know.
It's like, what are you guys doing? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Lane, you're in billionaire land. I mean, all the bajillionaires are right in your backyard. Isn't this something that they drive down to Starbucks or whatever?
Nah, dude, they're more they're more basic. It's like they buy a McLaren and whatever the mid-engine Ferrari is, and and they don't even like cars. They just got into cars yesterday because they got money.
So true.
Tell us how you really feel, Lane. I love it.
No. It's accurate. That's a perfect take.
I used to work at a place that we dealt with all the high end stuff, and that was kind of what it was.
Yeah. This looks like a cemetery where they shot this thing at. But it looks like just a gray park. I was like, are those headstones back there? I mean, whatever. I mean, the person that buys this is probably a year or two away from being in a. I just don't see this being a car owned by anyone that isn't collecting Social Security. This is insane.
What's very interesting, JP, I don't know if you found that photograph, but like the center armrest, somebody signed the car in ink on the leather in the center armrest.
It's got to be something fancy. That's another $100,000, right? I mean,
V12 Vantage Zagato 2013, one of one in fire mist red or whatever they call it, and I just think that's hilarious that you would let somebody like autograph your car.
Well, it's got to be like Zagato's nephew or something, right? I mean,
sure.
We're all nerd turding all over this thing.
Moving on.
Nearly $1 million car. All three of us are like, meh. Whatever. Do you have a Scirocco or something? That would be great.
Now watch us all geek out on this next car because it's got an IMS bearing upgrade. So we're looking at a 2004 Porsche 40th anniversary. This one has 64,000 miles on it, and the LN Engineering IMS bearing upgrade has been performed. Offered out of Lexington, Kentucky, JP. The 6-speed manual car is number 1,295 of 1962 or 1963 that were ever made. I forget. I messed up my notes here. Employing the X51 performance package, this car makes a normally aspirated 345 horsepower. Our car does show an accident on the Carfax. It is sitting.
Bad Carfax. Bad Carfax. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Last night, JP, our car was at 26,500 on 18 bids, and right now our car is at 29,996 on 20 bids. So there's a couple of bids overnight, and there's action on the car. 20 bids is a lot, and this should prove to be a pretty good value. There's a 60,000 mile one of these that don't have the bad Carfax is pushing $45,000 these days. Will this hold it back, or is this car still going to break $40,000? Lane, what say you?
Dude, I'm so far away from the 996 market. I hate these. I hate the anniversary models, or I don't hate. I just dislike them.
He hates.
How come?
Using harsh words.
It's a narrow body car with a turbo front bumper. It looks lame. And all the gaudy, the stupid badging. It just looks cheesy. It looks like someone got it at Pep Boys. This car doesn't have sport seats. I don't know. I know it has a bump of whatever 25 horsepower, but who cares? You don't even feel it.
Have you ever driven one? Have you ever actually driven one? You couldn't feel that horsepower different? I felt like the difference.
I owned a 99. I owned an 02 Targa. I prefer the first gens all day long. I think they look.
Wow, Lane is staying true.
It's the original design. I had a 99 with a sport package, LSD, sport seats.
Nice.
That car feels pure, and it's under 3,000 pounds, 2976, I believe.
Lane as a 3.4 apologist. I love it.
They feel so much better. 3.6 is
that's really cool.
Wow.
And the headlights suck too. All the chrome, they look so cheesy.
I never understood the GT3 rockers on the narrow body. That's the one point that I look at it. I'm like, ugh. And the rear end of a C4S, I think is one of the prettiest in
it's the best. 996 is a C4, is a C or Carrera S or a C4. Carrera.
Yeah. And I thought it would have been neat to do a wide body with the horsepower upgrade, but 2-wheel drive, and maybe like a slick roof. They just didn't do that.
And they all have like the pleated leather seats and stuff. They're super cheap.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. The anniversary doesn't have the pleated leather. The anniversary
okay.
No,
Turbos all have that.
This one has the sport leather.
The silver painted consoles, the silver center console sucks. I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
that's an option that someone chose. That's clearly something that
most of the anniversaries do have that though.
Yeah,
I believe
that
was
an
part
option.
Of the package.
Yeah,
and the flip lids on the flip lids are often painted.
The flip lids. What's a flip lid?
Sorry, the door pockets.
Yeah, you're right.
So much time around 996s, it's like. I used to sell parts for these and make parts for them all day long. And
oh my god, that's awesome! I love it. JP, what do you think? I geek out on these cars. I haven't driven one, Lane, and I just imagine they're probably pretty fun to drive because they should be a little lighter weight and have a little more power. And JP's been getting me lathered up on one, so I've been kind of keeping an eye out. But they've also, in the last 2 or 3 years, they've really crept up in value. And now almost all of them are bringing 40, 45,000. So they're no longer the screaming deal that they once were. So when you get into that price range, I'll probably shop something else. But JP, what do you think of this one with the Carfax?
The idea that you can't tell the difference in power between a Mark 1 and a Mark 2 anniversary is silly talk. It's 50 more horsepower than a 99.
Dude, they weigh 250 pounds more, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, so
that's
do
like
I, though.
Around.
I mean, I'm like, if I just, I can make that up by not eating all the time. No, these cars are, I think this is one of the best 996s out there. I love the perforated seats, the steering wheel, all that stuff. I do like the rocker panels, the hard rocker panels that have the sharper lines. I kind of like the turbo nose on the front but I do, I feel like it's more, there's some drama going on there, although I don't like that this one, and I think most of them do, have the slats in there are painted instead of black like they are in the turbo or the 4S. But 996s have been polarizing for a very long time, and not a lot of people really like the Mark 1s. We are seeing Mark 1s finally get their due, and they seem to be coming up, but all 996s are coming up, and I think this is I like this car better than a 997, that's for sure. A base 997 or a 996 of almost any kind is more interesting to me than most base 997s. As an owner of a base 997, I have a dot too, so I definitely think that the 996 is more interesting. So with all that said, where do we think this is going to land? Deeb, what do you think the number is going to be?
So JP, last night I was a little bearish on this one. I said $34,000, but I am going to change my bid. It looks like this car is poised to make a run, so I'm going to go $38,000. I still don't think this one will bring 40 with the Carfax and the 64,000 miles and not having the sports seats. I think that'll just hold it back a couple of grand from breaking 40.
Can I ask, do you recall what was on the Carfax? I mean, when you say bad Carfax...
It's an impact on the front left. So by all accounts, he had an accident with another vehicle, but they were able to drive the car away. I opened the Carfax.
No airbag deployment or anything?
No airbag
like
deployment, just an impact on the front left, and it was minor damage. So
all right. Lane, what do you think? What do you think of this dog meat piece of crap 996?
I just don't like the squared off bumper and stuff. It doesn't fit the car. It looks aftermarket.
Compared to a Mark 1 996, that is the first time I've ever heard anyone say that.
A Mark 1 is so pure. Look at the design.
It's so purely it's so purely Boxster, right?
I mean, sure. A Boxster's they're a pretty good looking car. If you see them these days too, they're really small and kind of cool looking actually.
Yeah.
The first Boxsters.
I'm trying to zoom. I wish I could zoom this in. To give you some anxiety while you're trying to give us a number.
I'm going to say
it's going to be.
I'm going to say 32 grand.
Wow.
32 grand. Well, where's it at now?
It's at 29,996.
Now, Lane, is that just because you don't like them, or do you? What do you? Because the numbers on.
I don't know. You were just running through the pictures, and it looked like I saw quite a few blemishes. It also has an accident on the record.
Yeah.
Every one of these has had a bumper respray, but the fact that it is on the record, like we talked about earlier, it is something. But it just, I don't know. I saw a lot of little scratches.
It's not a perfect car. It's not.
It just looks a little tired. I know the front lip is only $100 or $200, but it looks kind of tattered. That looks a little.
It's even got a chip in the 40-year logo there. Yeah, what's going on?
Little stuff kind of throws it off.
Where is this car? Where is it?
Not the greatest photos.
Lexington, Kentucky, where they salt the roads, JP.
Yeah. East Coast
it's
car.
Also not a California car.
Yeah.
Or Vegas car or whatever.
Boy, I think your bid is actually spot on. Deeb, where were you at? You were at...
I was at 34, but because this car is getting some action on 20 bids, I just think BAT is going to have this unfounded flurry at the end. So I raised my bid to 38. Lane's at 32. Where are you at, John?
I'm taking your old bid. I'm taking 34.
That's a good. That's a good take.
Because I mean, they are extremely popular right now. Some of them are getting just ridiculously overpriced money. And I'm betting on 996 because I have one and it's for sale on P-Car Market, and I'm hoping that it brings big money. So I'm rolling the dice for the 996 brethren. There it is. All right. Well, that's an interesting car, and it's a cool take from Lane. All right, well, let's move on to the next car. What do we got?
All right, last car out of St. Charles, Missouri. Is this 2004 Ferrari 360 Spyder with a 6-speed manual. 2004 JP was last year, 3.6 liter, about 415 horsepower. The 6-speed manuals were not the common choice. Most of these cars came with a single clutch F1 gearbox, which is absolute trash. So the 6 speeds bring a premium, and they're a great 6-speed. In fact, the clutch is light and the shifter's easy to use. So these are great driving cars. The holdback on 360s, JP, these are the last mid-engine Ferraris that have a timing belt. And in order to change the timing belt, most of our audience will know that you have to put the car in the air, drop the motor to change the belt. So while the belt is $400, the service is $8,000 and up. So with just 23,000 miles and a recent belt service, they did a full service, including the belts, in March of 2021. That's this month. Our car is sitting here in St. Charles, Missouri. A couple of notable upgrades. This thing has a Tubi exhaust, which means it probably sounds incredible. And they swapped the wheels out for the wheels, the 19-inch alloy wheels that come on a later F430. I'm not sure how I feel about these wheels on this car. I don't really like the 360 wheels, so these are kind of an upgrade. But of all the 430 wheels, these aren't my favorite either. So if you're going to do a Ferrari OEM wheel swap, this wouldn't be the wheel I would choose. So this doesn't really do anything for me. I do like that it's got the black Daytona style to the seats. I do like that it has the carbon fiber black mesh rear challenge grille between the taillights. And the yellow doesn't really bother me because there's no contrast stitching or red or yellow to make this car look a little too nouveau riche. Just being yellow, it's kind of subtle enough. So the exhaust is a plus. The belt service is a plus because it's about a $10,000 value. These cars with the manual transmission should bring over $100,000, and this one seems to be ticking all the right boxes. Lane, you like Italian cars?
Yeah, they're all right. It's
how are we going to impress Lane? What can we possibly bring?
Can't do it.
The mileage is a little high, 23 for Ferrari. I mean, Porsche is a totally different thing, right? Yeah. 6 speed's a huge deal because those were really bad with the single clutch.
Garbage.
And Spyders don't look that great. The coupes are great and they sound amazing, especially with the Tubi. Way better than like a 430 or something like that. You know, the sound is just really good in these. Same with like 355s. Wheels don't really work for me. 19s too. I think they came with 18s. And they came with those 5 spokes, which, like you said, aren't the best, but I think they are better than this. They fit the car better. I don't like the yellow. I hate the headlights, how the color behind them. So like a black one always looks really good. Silver looks good because, but when they're like even a red, they look a little plasticky.
They look like a ski boat. Like some kind of jet ski or something.
It looks like a toy, right? Like just kind of the details aren't there.
Ferrari by Sea-Doo.
All that being said, Ferrari guys don't like a lot of mods really when when you're paying all the money too. So even the wheels being changed is kind of a sign, and then the challenge grille in the back, even that, I forget. Does this one have fender shields or no?
It does. It does.
And they're factory. They're not just stuck on.
They're factory, yeah.
And that's one of those things. It's like that's a polarizing thing too. Some people love the fender. Some people just want a car with fender shield. So whatever.
Yeah. Somebody didn't mention it, but somebody also changed head units. So now you've got Kenwood with Bluetooth. Yeah, and I think I agree with you. When you see mods on a Ferrari, it holds back the value. Go ahead. Like,
I was just gonna say it's a big detractor. Having dealt with these cars, a lot in the past.
Yeah, I would just contest your take that it's high miles for a Ferrari. In the late 90s and early 2000s, especially in California, if you were here at that time, millionaires were being made during the .com all the time. And when this car came out, I would say that it found they found homes with a lot of young buyers, which was probably kind of something new for Ferrari. And a lot of these, wealthy tech guys, at least in the Bay Area, what I remember seeing is a lot of guys driving these cars on the daily. So it's the 360 is one of the bright models where you kind of expect, 23,000 miles doesn't seem unusual to me for this car. The big thing, I think, is how recent was the last service, and in this case, it was done as the car came to market. So in essence, the value should be
Deeb, can I ask you about that service? Because I looked on Ferrari chat, and everyone's saying there that it does not require an engine out service.
I thought 355 was the last engine out. But.
No, I think you have to drop the motor on these to change the belt. Now, listen, I could be wrong. The only thing I can say to defend that is that the 430 is chain driven, and you don't have to change the chain. You can adjust it and keep it going. So the belt has to be changed, and I believe the motor has to come out on this. Maybe one of our audience that's watching can correct me or correct you, but I believe
I've never
have to drop the motor.
Yeah, I've never owned one of these, but from what everyone's saying, there's an inspection panel behind the seats, and that's the big difference. Yeah, so you're right, Michael, that it does not have the chain-driven engine. It's still the belts, but from what I'm reading, and again, I don't know for sure, it appears that you don't actually have to remove the engine. I'm
pretty sure you're right,
yeah,
John, because that is one of the selling points. As far as I know, that's one of the selling points for 360s.
Oh, that's great. That's
it is the fact that 355s are like the prohibitive.
Leave that video up, JP.
Leave the video up? Okay.
Yeah, leave that video because I want to ask Lane.
He has gloves, so that's cool.
Yeah, Lane, do you have a pair of
and a cool watch on his right arm?
On his right hand, that's an interesting move, right?
I
definitely got to show off my watch. Look at that.
No mesh gloves. So and you're right about it. Is that a bubble on the dash?
It is.
It is. It's really bad.
It's like a Nissan R32 GTR or something. The mileage, you're right. There is cars with these miles, but I would say this is like getting a 997 with 85,000 miles or something like that, right? Those guys are all, I would get these calls all the time, and they're like bragging that their car has 1,200 miles,
Yeah, which is saying,
go drive it, dude, But it is like the battle for low is different in a Ferrari.
It is.
Right?
It really is. It's absolutely. And the other thing, to piggyback what you're saying, Lane, on the Carfax, this car shows 8 previous owners. And
that's really bad for these guys. These guys hate that.
Yeah, the Ferrari world hates that. They they screwed it all up. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
And what's interesting, and Lane, correct, maybe you've seen this, when we see a Ferrari, whether it has 2 owners or 8 owners, when we see a Ferrari like this that has 70,000 miles on it, they tend to drive better. They wind up being, the clutch is lighter, the shifter is better, the steering is all, because it's actually freaking broken in.
It's very true.
It's a high mile Ferrari is probably a great driving car compared to one that's got 1,200 miles, and it's like a Tin Man before oil,
Oh yeah, totally. They are cars that Italian cars like to be driven a lot.
Agreed.
And they won't start, and things happen. One question I would have is, a big deal with these as well is maintenance records. So it's whether or not it was serviced at Joe Schmo or a Ferrari dealer. They like be a Ferrari service center. And if it's not, even if it's done at a place that is,
an independent,
that doesn't necessarily have a huge reputation, that doesn't cut it for these guys. It needs to go to a Ferrari dealer
or a reputable independent,
or a very reputable that's well known and they've been around since the 50s or something like that.
Yeah. The only caveat to that is if you're out in the middle of nowhere like Utah and there's just maybe a lesser known independent, but you took it to him consistently and the records are annual and everything was accounted for. You get the estimate and then the guy went and paid for everything, for every line that was estimated. Then you can kind of get away with it with a lesser known. But I agree, reputable independents, or it has to be done at the dealer.
Okay, but all right. So we've all just talked about, that's a lot of stuff that I feel like that's
unknown.
That is what. Well, no, this is everybody knows this about Ferraris. Oh my gosh, if it wasn't all the things we just talked about. But what I never see, and I look because I want a Ferrari and I just can't afford one. I'm still waiting for the day where I find one that's super cheap because of all these problems. That it wasn't. Where is the one that was done and maintained by Joe Schmo? Where is the one that's got some higher miles. Where is that car? If all these things affect the price so much, where is it? I want to buy that car for half the price. And I'm never seeing those cars for sale. They're always really expensive.
It's called a 348 JP, and they are already starting to move.
They're
starting to move. Yeah,
they were like $35,000 for a bit.
Yeah. And JP, do you know why they're starting to move? Because of our guest. Yeah, the Radwood is absolutely, I think, that era being respected and highlighted and concentrated on.
But where's the 360? Where do I get my cheap 360 that
it's got an F1 gearbox.
No. Where do I get the manual? Where do I get the 360 manual that wasn't maintained by the exact right guy and has had 8 owners? Where is that car? Yeah.
I mean, you can find that one, but it's 20% less. It's not 50.
Right. I feel like we're talking about all this extra stuff that people talk about, but does it really affect the value? Really, at the end of the day,
JP, you'll have to add it to your constant Craigslist searching.
Already is
regionally.
It has been for the last 10 years, and I still haven't found one. I was talked off the ledge on a 355 once, but that's about as close as I got to it.
They sound good. They're really cool.
Oh man, they're so great when they work, but they don't very often. Do they?
They all sound like these mid-engine cars with the cams and the valves right behind your ear. JP, these cars don't have a back seat, so they're real mid-engine cars. They sound like F1 cars. When you're in a tunnel and you're at 8,000 RPM and you got an exhaust on them, every drive is like an experience. It's just amazing. On-ramps are your favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, just make sure headers have been replaced and has a recent belt service with 355.
Lane, which is the worst headlight? The headlight of a Mark II 996 or the headlight on these?
I think these are
worse.
I don't
better
know,
or worse?
I don't like the shape of the Mark. I don't like the shape of the Mark II. I don't like it goes into a point. And I don't like chrome on a modern car like that. So,
Agreed.
I feel like if you could just put a basic lens in this shape, it would be great. But everything that's going on in there is pretty.
Yeah, and I think if you went back there and painted, if it was like a dark gray or something, it might be passable.
JP, we're all going to get Ferraris when you and Lane start a magazine together. We're going to be able to afford these cars. I promise you.
Hyper nerds.
Hyper nerds, yeah. Hyper nerds for sure. All right, JP, our car has 4.5 hours to go out of St. Charles, Missouri. 23,000 miles, recent belt service. It's sitting at $81,500. But the book on these is over $100,000. By all accounts, this should be about $110,000 car.
On a Spyder?
On a Spyder with a stick. Okay. But the question is, do the miles over 20,000, do the changes to the stereo wheels, do these things hold it back? These are all relevant points on a car like this. So despite being $81,500, it's only on 11 bids. Not a lot of action to suggest it's really going to get there. I personally don't, so I'm going to bid $97,000 and say that this one is just slightly held back, or perhaps a pretty good value for somebody who doesn't subscribe to all the Ferrari philosophy and just looks at it as a great car with a manual. Lane, what do you say? You think it's going to break 100?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going to go with 99.
Good guess. Good guess. This guy's smart, JP. We cannot have him back. I think we're going to lose
he
a
might
winner.
He might be wiping the floor with all of us.
Yeah. I hated a Mark II 996's song.
Yeah. We'll call Lane to see if we can book Bradley. I'm like, hey, can your friend Bradley come on the show again? We need a win.
Okay. Before I give my number, Lane, your compadre Bradley. Speaking of other guys over at Radwood, he has a philosophy: he will never own a car. He will never buy a car for more.
Yeah, it's the dumbest philosophy ever. I mean, if you have the money for a cool toy that's $500,000 and you could sell it a year later for $500,000, why would you not do that? Right.
Right.
It doesn't. It's just, there's no reaon for that number being a thing.
Hot take: Radwood executives hate each other. Oh, that's great.
I mean, everyone knows that's a dumb philosophy, dude.
I'll go and say, Bradley, are you watching?
Yeah, JP, everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
So you're not going to buy a McLaren F1 and just like if you could afford it and you could sell it 2 years later for $2 million more?
You don't think Bradley has some asterisks to that?
No,
It's
he does not. We've had but he'll spend $100,000 on a 912E.
Yep.
Yeah, overall, yeah. By the time he's done, sure. Yeah, well, that's easy to do when you own any classic car. Yeah, I'm going to say 100 on this. I think it breaks 100. I think the biggest problem for this car is that it's in Illinois, that it's up there in the Midwest where there's a lot of snow and cold and nastiness.
St. Charles, Missouri.
That does not seem like a fun place to go get a Ferrari and do a road trip in a convertible on the way back, even though that would be super duper fun. Is that our last car? Is that it?
That was it, man. That's a show, JP.
Oh my gosh, look at that. My gosh, Lane, what do you think? Do you think you're gonna whoop our butts today with your predictions?
I don't think so, dude. I'm not. I don't know. Maybe if there were different cars, I would have.
We picked some weird cars today. They're almost random when we pick these things. We don't really have any rhyme or reason.
No, I like it. It's cool, dude. I like being way off. I like not knowing.
Get everybody out of their wheelhouse and their comfort zone a little bit. Except that there's a lot of Italian stuff here, and Deeb's always cheating with the Italian stuff.
I try.
Does.
Every advantage I can squeeze.
All right, guys. Well, you just watched another episode of Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on all the automotive enthusiast auction sites, including Rad ForSale. And we've got to thank Lane Skelton from Rad ForSale hanging out with us and talking about the cars. We wish you luck on that amazing 944 Turbo Cup car with Reebok livery today. I think that's going to bring some big money.
So sad I'm not bidding on that car. I really like that. Yeah, it's cool. Lane, it's really great to meet you again. Thank you so much for the show. We enjoyed having you. Hopefully, if you had fun, we could get you back on.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Semi-regularly if you can swing with us. And keep talking. Good luck with Rad ForSale, man. We are absolutely pulling for you, and we will have cars every week. So, if there's something you want to talk about, by all means, just reach out and we'll get you on.
Awesome.
Lane, where can we find Rad ForSale and DWA, and give us all the plugs.
All the things, huh?
Yeah.
So Rad ForSale, radforsale.com, where you can see our daily auctions of Radwood era cars. Rad ForSale on Instagram, Facebook, all the things. And then Radwood, you can follow Radwood at Radwood Official on Instagram and Twitter and all that, and radwood.com. And then my other company is Driving While Awesome, and we do a weekly podcast, and we do car rallies, and we have cars and coffees and stuff, and that is all. Everything's at Driving While Awesome on all the socials and drivingwhileawesome.com.
Very cool.
Coastal Range rallies hopefully coming back soon.
Yeah.
Oh, even a camp out. Were you guys talking camp out, like maybe doing the little overnighter in the was it Sierras we were talking when I saw you?
So we're talking about Northern California coast, right on the coast.
JP, you got to come out for that. I'll give you a call.
Yeah, I'm definitely in. I'm in.
Let's do it.
Man, Lane, I'm sure you sure everybody should go listen to the next Driving While Awesome podcast, because he's gonna just go, oh, these two nerds, they're such idiots. They have no idea.
Yeah, he's like, my agent. I fired my agent this week because he put me on this terrible show. Hey, Lane, listen. More than anybody I know, I hope that the California. That they roll back the restrictions and you guys are turned loose to engage the driving community, here in Northern California, and you guys get all your events up and going again. I know this has been like an incredibly tough year, so I wish you all the best, man. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
My sister and I own a restaurant, and we are just chomping at the bit to try and get open here in San Francisco. And it affects us both ways. So I'm pulling for you, buddy. Good luck, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you at a show soon.
Oh, we'll come down. Yeah, we'll come down. For sure.
All right, guys, hit subscribe, like, notifications, all those buttons. If you haven't already, spread the word. Let everybody that Bid Nerds happens every day, Monday through Friday. Your daily nerd out on all the auctions. We will see you tomorrow. We have guest Mauricio from 3 Pedal Posse is coming to be a third nerd on Thursday, and we have Kelly Smith from Haggerty on Friday. So we got some other big nerds this week. So stick around. Make sure you come back at the 9 o'clock hour. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.